Hello guys, Fatty here with you. Fatty Boom Boom. Right, so here we go. Today is the day we're going to do the Waxoyl on the chassis, and I've bought some special gear, so we've got the proper kit now, rather than trying to use the Waxoyl pump up thing. So yeah, this video I did contact Waxoyl, and they kindly sent me a free can of Waxoyl, which was very good of them indeed, in return for me sort of basically telling everybody how good I think their product is, which I would do anyway. So I'm not actually promoting Waxoyl because they gave me some free Waxoyl. I am promoting Waxoyl because I think it's brilliant, as you know I've done in many videos before. This chassis was Waxoyled from new. Inside, I did it myself inside. I copper slipped every nut and bolt, Waxoyled the chassis and did it all in the first couple of days that I had the vehicle, so it was done when it was brand new. There is no internal rust on the chassis whatsoever. There's been no holes. I've had to do no repairs whatsoever. The only reason I'm doing all this work is because it would appear that if in my case with my Land Rover is Keswick green, any piece of metal that isn't painted Keswick green has rusted. Every single piece. So the coatings that Land Rover use are obviously rubbish, and certainly I found there's been a hell of a lot all over the chassis, on every bracket and bits and pieces. There have been air pockets or grease on the surface, so the paint hasn't even stuck. There's no use of any primers or anything. There's no zinc primers or nothing. It's just basically thin, probably electrostatically or dipped metal parts, and it's awful. And every single piece, as I say, every single piece of metal is rusted. So that's why I'm doing all this work. I've stripped the engine, gearbox, transfer box, axles and everything, because when I started to delve in, I started to find some disasters, like in the engine, pretty much every hole that's tapped, all the tapping swarf is still in the bottom of the hole. So obviously they've removed the process to get the swarf out and just leave it in there. But I do know that Ford, when they built these engines, they do actually say they're not rebuildable. I don't know what that's all about, but I can't find any specs for the engine at all because it's not rebuildable apparently. So God knows what sort of world we're living in now with throwaway engines. It's just crap. So and as you know, I found all my bearing tolerances are all really tight. You know, I think it was it 13 or 17 thou preload on one of the bearings in the transfer box, and that knackered spun bearing. So that's why I'm doing all this work, in case you're wondering, because a lot of people do ask. So best thing to do now, I think, is get down to the bench and I'll show you what I've bought, where I've got it from, what I paid for it, and the process I'm going to use to get this chassis Waxoyled. And I haven't used this equipment at all. It's all brand new. I don't even know what pressure I'm going to run it at, but we'll learn together, eh? So I'll see you at the bench. By the way, just one more thing. Can we please wish this a happy birthday? The chassis is there. Okay, that's my Ford GPW. So the chassis is here. Okay, you can see there up on the wall. 30th of March 1944, built in Texas. That's when that chassis was built. So happy birthday to my chassis, 77 years old today. The body is, I think it's September 44. Now, as a lot of you will know, if you're into these World War II vehicles, they ran them for a few weeks, a couple of months, and then they went to the motor pool to be rebuilt. So invariably, when you get a World War II Jeep, the engine, gearbox, chassis, body will all be from different Jeeps. Unless you get a matching numbers Jeep, then they're worth a fortune. So if you've got a GPW with matching numbers, that's the way to go. So yeah, this one's a bit of a mishmash. They call it a salad, but I don't care. I'll rebuild it one day. And there we go. So that's 77 years old. That is 10 years old. Makes you think, doesn't it? Okay, so this is what I've got here. Basically, we've got the gun for applying the Waxoyl. We've got some different nozzles. There's this nozzle here, which is for getting inside the chassis, and that will give us a nice spray pattern, I believe. The tube's not very long, but I'm guessing that's because you've got so much resistance because of the viscosity of the material. And then you also get this one, which is an angled, so I'm guessing this is for doing like inside doors and getting round, getting round inside behind panels and everything, which is a really good idea. So for some reason it's got an Allen bolt in there that makes it all sloppy, so I don't know. But they're all push fit fittings, which are really nice. The one thing I did notice when I got this, if you do get one, every single fitting on it was loose. So if you do get one, don't just connect it to your compressor, because something might blow off and catch you in the eye or whatever. But every single bit was loose. And also there was a weird thread in here. I'm not sure what thread it was, but it was actually the right size. I just tapped it out, quarter BSP, and now I can fit my normal fittings in there because this is the type of fitting I use in the UK. I think Europe use different fittings and stuff, don't they? But I've got one here. But what it came with was a weird looking thing. But it just you don't need to do any drilling. Just tap it out, quarter BSP, and it'll go in. In fact, you could probably just launch that in there because it's soft aluminium. So this is the make of it. It's Wiltec, or it's German, so it's probably Wiltec. I got this on Amazon. Now, if you look at the construction of this, okay, I'll put it there so you can have a good look at it. The set is a rough proofing set. And I've seen it, believe it or not, I've seen the price range. I paid £58 for this, and I've seen exactly the same thing, exactly the same manufacturer and everything, for £199. So if you are get in for this sort of gear, shop around, because it's exactly the same thing. I know with the sandblasters you get better guns and that on the more expensive ones, but with this sort of thing, it's exactly the same. There is no difference whatsoever. So shop around, you can get a bargain. But this was the last one they had at that price. But yeah, 58 quid is still not cheap, but it's it's 25, well, just over 25% of the cost of the alternative. So I'm not sure what pressure to use on this. I've actually got my compressor set at 10 psi, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to be using this one. I think what I'll do is maybe do a test first in a glass jar or something, so we can see what it looks like. But because we need to know that we're getting a good spray pattern inside the chassis. Obviously it's no good just going in if we've got one finger of you know, one sort of 1/4 inch diameter finger of wax coming out. We need to make sure we've got a spray fan. So I'll get that set up now and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've got it all ready now. I've just read on the back of the Waxoyl can here, if you're using the spraying equipment, then you can thin it sort of 20 to 30% with white spirit. Why I didn't see that before, I do not know. But I've warmed it and I've thinned it, so we've now got a nice sort of ready sprayable substance. So it could be that that actual spraying kit would have worked after all. Never mind. So oh, if you saw the KFC pots and trays and stuff in the image, these things here, you need as many of these old, you know, takeaway meal trays, whatever, as you can get, because this is going to run out of every hole it can find, and it's going to get everywhere. It's going to make a hell of a mess. You need to be ready for that. And you also notice I'm doing it in the garage, not on the drive, because if this stuff gets in your tarmac, because of its white spirit content, it'll soak in, and it may well sort of dissolve the tarmac, kind of like petrol does. So better to keep it off the tarmac, really. So, or if you are going to do, at least some cardboard underneath, just to protect it. But here I've got a concrete painted floor, so I'm not really too worried about it. So that's what those trays over there are for. So we'll get this poured out into this jug, see how successful we can make this, or how much mess we can make, should I say. So just pour that in. I've got some white spirit on there. I believe that's white spirit. Yes, it is. That can go in. There we go. You can see it's quite thin now. Okay, so we put some in there. That's all gone in nice and neatly. Now, I used to know a guy many years ago, in fact the guy that actually got me into Waxoyl, when I used to be into Fiats. A guy who used to restore Fiat 128s. I've had 12 of them now. And he used to thin it right down, really, really thin with white spirit. So I know that it works. Using white spirit, should I say. So there we go. So we'll put that to one side. I think I may have thinned that a little bit too much. What I think I might do is add some of the thicker stuff. If it'll pour out of here. You see, this is what it's normally like. It's coming, but it's warm. It's been in the sun and it's been stood in hot water, but you can see here come on, this needs to be stirred as well. There we go. So you can see how thick it is when it comes out of the can. perfect for brushing, but it's not so good for spraying. The other thing I think I'll do is, if I get this can, put this in front of the camera, you can have a read of what they're saying. So if I slowly lift the can up, you can pause it. But so if you've never heard of this product, it's absolutely brilliant. The beauty of this stuff is it doesn't dry. You know, and my chassis is living proof that it works. If you look at Life's Projects, if you look at Tom's channel, again, he's got a Keswick Green Land Rover he's rebuilding. If you look at the state his chassis was in compared to mine, somebody had previously done that with like an underseal type product, one of these products that goes on and dries, and it had actually cracked, and all the moisture had capillaried into the cracks and made the chassis worse than if it had just been left. So that's something you need to be aware of, especially if people have put that kind of product inside your chassis. Then you know you're never going to get it out. But this stuff, it doesn't dry, and as I've shown you before in some images, you can see where I've sprayed the chassis. You can see where the Waxoyl, even though it's been blasted out and everything and washed out, it's still doing its work and creeping. Because the other thing with this stuff, it creeps. If you put a drop of Waxoyl here and leave it for 6 months, it will just grow. It just spreads on the surface. It's quite incredible. It's very, very good stuff. So anyway, let's that's so you can see what I'm using, because after all they did give it to me for free. Thank you very much. So there we go. Right, so let's give this a go. I've got a glass jar here. We'll put our spray nozzle on. Now the dog is going to come running in here, I know she is, because she loves anything driven by compressed air. I don't know where she gets it from, but so put that on there. Right, as I said, I've got this set to 10 psi. So what we'll do is we'll put the glass jar here in front of the camera so you can see it. I'll just check you can actually see. Yes, you can. So we'll put the gun over here. We'll pull the trigger and see what happens. Here it comes. Okay, and it looks like the end of the nozzle is loose. Oh no, it's just spraying out the sides, that's all. So it would appear that 10 psi probably isn't enough. So let's up the pressure a bit. So it's like 45 now. Oh yeah, that's working wonderfully. So you can see that's putting a nice coating on everything. That's lovely. So yeah, you can see on that glass jar, you see it's put a nice even coating on everything. So just see if I can show you again. Lovely, I'm happy with that. So you also need plenty of rags. I've got some dirty rags for doing this. So there we go. Right. It looks like we've got a throttle stop on here as well, so I can wind this in or out to get. As I say, it came with no instructions whatsoever, so you sort of have to guess, really. There we go. So, right. So let's see how it goes. Something I've just discovered, and I can find out the hard way, so you don't have to. If you disconnect the airline for the air fitting, basically the pressure in there will take the wax through its path of least resistance, and obviously this orifice is bigger than this orifice. So what happens is, when you take the air pressure off and you open the gun, it just pushes all the Waxoyl out of here. So be careful of that. So what you need to do is put your finger over the rag and let it relieve the pressure before you unscrew the pot, like so. That's probably why the threads are so long. There we go. So I'm going to fill this pot up now and start wax oiling. Okay, so here you can see the chassis. I've got it tilted over just to get it to run, and then we'll do it the other way around so it runs that way. In the rear crossmember there's lots of box sections and stuff to get to, and in behind here you can see, I'll show you close up in a minute, there's a box section in there, and then you need to get the wax into these, I don't know if you can see them, what I'm pointing at, but they're actually the bolt holes where the towing hook goes, because there's another box section in there. There's a box section inside here, so we really need to make sure we get in everywhere. So you can see with this thing, it's so easy. You just grab it, you go to the end, when it stops at the end of the box section, and again, just keep spraying it in. Make sure you get all the seams, get into that box section inside there. Go both ways, go up, go down. You know, you can't really overdo it. You don't really want like a 1/2 inch thick layer because what happens, it'll peel. But you know, as long as it's thin like this, it'll spread around. And also in places like this where you've got the bolt holes, if you actually keep spraying as you draw it out, down here I'm talking about where these threaded inserts are, if you keep spraying as you draw it out, you'll actually penetrate the flange, the weld joint where the nut is actually welded on from behind. So go in and then keep spraying it as it comes out, and then just with your finger just push it all back into the holes like that, and that's it. That's the cross member that way. Then now I'll tip it over and I'll do it upside down and everything, but you can see if I show you around here, the tripod gets in the way of everything. You can see down here it's all running out. So that's what you want to see. You want to see it running out to make sure that you've got everywhere, and make sure that it gets in all the seams as well. If there's one place, guys, you want to make sure you get some wax, my advice, it's in this hole I'm about to show you. Now the pipe's going to catch the tripod, I think, but there's a hole here I'm pointing at. Okay, and that leads into a box which is welded around the end of the chassis here. And if you remember, when I did my cross member, I cut this plate out from underneath, and that was the only place I found any rust. And that was because I'd wax oiled everything, but the wax cannot get inside here. And if you can imagine, this is like a box welded to the end of the chassis. It can't get in there. So basically, get your probe in there, whatever you're using, push it in, and push it in as far as it'll go, and it's probably curling its way around the end of the chassis. And then just really give it a good old blast in there, because underneath here is where mine rusted. And as we all know, this is probably the highest area of rust on any Land Rover chassis, and this could well be one. So get in there, and I mean just really, really plaster it in, because you want it all to soak in, and then try and pull the pipe out, which isn't easy, but it will come. Okay, so there we go, all done. As you can see, there's wax everywhere, or maybe you can't see. But it's all done, all the box sections everywhere. And now I'm just going to try out the, well, I've already tried it out. I'm just going to show you the little spray gun that comes with it. This little attachment here, this one. I turn the pressure down to about 25 psi, so because otherwise it just goes everywhere. But this little thing is brilliant. You can just go in and spray it into all the little nooks and crannies. And I would suggest, if you are doing this, make sure you get it in everywhere there's a weld joint. Get some in there. It's run out now. Just get some in there into every weld joint, and then it will seep into it'll capillary into the gap that's there, and help seal it out, help seal the water out. Just like that, just spray some in, and then wherever there's a weld seam, some in the back side. There we go. I've run out now, so I need to refill. So there we are, guys. That's it. All done. Okay, so I'll walk you around the chassis now. As you can see, we've got Waxoyl basically in every nook and cranny we can get it into, especially the ends of the cross member here. Get in here and get into this seam and around the front. Let the Waxoyl just soak its way in, get a nice thin mix, and let it just capillary its way in, and it will help it stop rusting. And there Here we go. I'm going to be fitting the Gwyn Lewis guards on here, that will protect all that from splashes and stone chips and everything. So as you can see, I've basically gone in every hole I could get that thing into and done it all around here, let it get into all the welded joints. You know, obviously it's all going to be wiped off. And in here, all in there, and in here. This is a very critical area, as we know the front outriggers always go. So in here, up in here, in this box, this is upside down now, and then also in there, there's also where the outrigger goes over the top of the chassis rail here, and in here as well. Get it in there, get it into every nook and cranny. Just plaster it in there and let it all soak in. As you can see, this is quite runny, but it will actually set quite hard once all the white spirit has evaporated. So you can see, get in here, all around the dumb irons and that, make sure you get a good soaking in there. And also remember, when you spray in here, there are 2 gussets here, so you need to get in behind them and come in this way, otherwise these corners here will rot out. So there's your dumb irons, and then you also got your chassis rails you can get in from the front. And don't forget, wherever you see these spot welds in the chassis, all the way along, there's flanges and boxes and stuff inside, so you need to make sure you get either side of those as well. Otherwise, you know, you come down here and say there's a box here, you come in here, spray it, come in here, spray it, and you think you've done your whole chassis leg, but this area here has been missed out. So again, this outrigger up in there, get in there. So there we go, all done. I've made sure I got up in these corners in here where there's flanges and stuff where water could collect and build up, the rust could start. Again, on these spring hangers all around here, you can't go too mental in here, it's just completing a rust trap. So hopefully that'll do us for another 10 years. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon with another video, and we can start putting this back together now. Bye for now.